Hi everybody, I'm trademark attorney Josh Gerben, and I want to talk to you about how to select a strong name for your business, product, or service. So as an attorney, I have a different view on how to select a name from most marketers. And that's because my main consideration is your name unique enough to be protected with a federal trademark registration? And I hear it from clients every day, this is hard, I can't come up with something more unique. And I understand, it's tough. So here are 3 tips on how to come up with a really good, unique brand name. The first is to consider a mutation of an existing word. And to show you what I mean, let's take 2 examples. First, Zappos. How do you think they came up with the name Zappos? It started with the Spanish word, zapatos. Zapatos means shoes in Spanish. But be careful, you can't just use a foreign equivalent because that is actually a quick way to get a generic refusal. You can't just use the foreign equivalent of the word shoes. That doesn't work. But they could take the word zapatos and make Zappos. So it's a mutation. Also, Google. Do you know how Google got its name? It started with the word Googol, G-O-O-G-O-L. And that has a meaning in mathematics where it talks about like basically ones and zeros, which, in the computer coding world, that's a lot of what they do. So they turned Google into Google. And so these mutations where you take a word and just kind of twist it a little bit, but you have to be careful, you have to twist it enough, right? But that will create a super unique and new word that is extremely protectable under trademark law around the world. So the second way to think about creating a really unique name is to take 2 words and combine them. And examples here would be WordPress and Instagram. So WordPress is just taking literally 2 words and putting them together and making one. And by putting those 2 words together, they actually came up with a unique word, right? And it's kind of ingenious if you think about it. WordPress, because you're creating basically a press, right? You're creating websites, you're creating content, and you're using words to do it. So it's just a great name. And Instagram, they took the word instant and telegram, and they chopped off part of the words, they put them together, and now they got a new word, right? So you don't have to use the full word. Sometimes you take parts of 2 words, and then you put them together, and you get a new trademark. So those are great examples of how to just take 2 existing words and put them together to come up with something new and unique. And the final way that I would suggest coming up with a unique name is to create 2-word phrases. For example, North Face or Under Armour. Both of those trademarks, North Face and Under Armour, really don't work if it's just one of those words, right? If it's just North or Face or Under or Armour. Those might be a little bit just, not distinct enough brands. But when you combine them and you make a phrase, now we're not combining and making a new word, but we're making a phrase at this point, that also creates a really unique trademark. So you can think about how you can take 2 words and make a phrase, maybe 3 words and make a phrase, that comes up with a really unique commercial impression. And voila, you've got a very protectable federal trademark. So I'll leave you today with 3 things you should really watch out for and not do when you're creating a new name. The first is using a common English word and it just being a single word name for your business. The second is using laudatory words like great, excellent, elite. And the final is using words or phrases that are very common in your industry. So the first point here about just using a single common English word, the problem can be is it's very difficult to clear it from a conflict perspective. There could be dozens, if not hundreds of clients using that word in their name. And you could find it very difficult to stand out in the marketplace, let alone you might accidentally be infringing on someone else's rights. So typically just taking a very common word and trying to make it your trademark is not going to be the best way forward. Now, one deviation from this would be like Apple for a computer. So if you're going to take a word like Apple and apply it to the tech space, now you might have something. But it has to be a word that has absolutely nothing to do with your industry. So the second point here is avoiding laudatory phrases. We find a lot of clients will actually come to this type of thing where they're calling themselves the elite this or the super that or the great this. And all these kind of laudatory words, they're highly descriptive. Right? They result in refusals of trademark registrations for just not being unique enough. So don't have your name of your business, the name of your product, the name of your service be based on a very laudatory word. In other words, a word that heaps praise upon your particular product or service. And the final point here is to really watch out and avoid language that's common in your industry. This is perhaps the number one problem we see. If we have a client that does dietary nutritional supplements, they all use the same words. If we have a client that's a doctor, they all use the same words. It is so common to see people in a particular industry just gravitate towards certain language. And that's because that's what they're used to hearing day in and day out. So when you're coming up with the name of your business, your product, your service, you have to leave all that stuff behind and you have to come up with words or phrases that are unique to your industry. So I hope you found today's video helpful. If I can be of any further assistance to you or your company, please feel free to get in touch. You can always visit us on the web at gerbenlaw.com.